Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Ashley's Treasure, and today I will be crafting on my Peter Rabbit journal finally. It's been a long time since I had the chance to. Um, so first I was thinking about adding some stencils. I was debating between these two Tim Holtz ones that I have, these floral ones, and I think I was gonna go with this one. I was thinking about adding some to the top left corner and the bottom right. And I was debating between old paper or antique linen, and I ended up going with antique linen because I wanted to get like a little bit darker because that paper that I'm doing the stencil on is one of the papers that I coffee dyed. And so I kind of wanted like another shade darker so that you can still journal over it. Like you can still write on it, or if not, just journal around it. So that's why I didn't want a lot going on, but just like a little to give some character to it. Um, Sadly, I didn't get all of it. I kind of missed a spot, so I had to like realign it, but it wasn't bad. I was able to get it lined up just right again, and I used my little brush to get all the fine ends and everything. I really like using the brushes for stenciling. It really helps get the details a lot compared to the little like daubers, which you can kind of see on the top left. I have one that I use for distressing edges. But for doing stencils, I absolutely love using the brushes. And then I'm going to do the same flower in the top left corner now. And I was trying not to miss a spot this time, and I really like how that looked. It gave it a lot of character. And then I was thinking about doing something in the back, and then I realized I still had to finish that pocket on the other page, and I had a flower that I wanted to use as a tag to tuck into that pocket. So I got some paper out and got some ideas how to do the tag. I wanted to use the green paper, scrapbook paper. It was from a 12 by 12 sheet, and I still had some left, and it's the same paper that I used the pocket on. I wanted to have like a distressed tear look to it, and so I used one of my rulers and was just tearing off the edges to give it so it wouldn't be clean cut, and it still kind of ended up being more, but you'll see further on what I did with it. But yeah, I just kept going from side to side trying to tear some off really carefully. And now I'm gonna try to, I was debating of how much of the green that I wanted, like how much of a border around it. So again, I'm using the ruler and giving that tear look, and then I thought maybe I should give, because the back of it's white, and so when you tear it, like you get some of the white showing, and I really like that. So I thought that would give it some more character and more layering to it, kind of. And so that's why I was tearing it backwards like that, so I would show some of the white. And so I'm going to be doing that on all four sides. And I'm going to give about, oh, what would you say? Like, at first it looks like about like a half an inch or quarter of an inch border, but I think it's going to be a little bit smaller than that because I keep tearing more and more off, as you will see further on. And with the ruler, it was still too straight and perfect. So with my hands, I just kept, picking little pieces off and roughing it up even more. And then I noticed that there was too much on the bottom, so I had to start tearing some off on the bottom. And see, there still was, so I tore more off, and I ended up tearing a little bit too much off because now it was too short. And so now I had to start tearing some off of the flower. So I really carefully, which was also too straight and perfect anyways, even with tearing it with a ruler. So I kind of just like picked at it and made it more rough looking and more distressed looking, like what I was going for. But yes, I keep doing it more and more and more, so it all fits together and just more towards what I was going for. Yeah, I started to like where this was going now. And yeah, I was like tearing off the corners too. I didn't want it all straight and perfect. I saved the name of the flower and I thought I should put something behind it. And I always like saving that and putting it so I know what type of flower it is. And there was a teeny weeny black dot on the flower or the paper on the flower and it would not come off. And so it's still neat. That's why I wanted to put the name there, but it was still like it needed something behind it. So that's why I thought I'd put some lace on it. I was really excited to use this tissue paper, which I just torn off. And that is, it has like this antique newspaper look. I got it on clearance for 37 cents at Hobby Lobby. I like cut two packages, but I'm glad because I absolutely love it. And then I got this like off-white cardstock. It's like 110-pound cardstock, and I didn't know exactly how big it was gonna be. I think I made it like 3 3/4 by like 5 1/4. I didn't really measure. I was kind of going for like a 1/2 inch border, which I can't do exact measurement because I tore the green paper, so there's no like exact measurement. So I was just kind of roughly eyeballing it. And so yeah, I made it that big. And then next I was going to put on the tissue paper. So I was getting my glue stick out and found out that it was completely empty. So I had to toss it. Luckily I still had a small one on my desk ready to go. So I was putting glue stick all over the place trying to make sure I got it really good, especially the edges. I always have a hard time with that, with the edges. But yeah, it works great with tissue paper. And I made sure that it was facing up. And then I went and got my little squeegee, which works great. So I could get all the little bubbles out and kind of like varnish it, press it really good to make it just all stuck really well. I love that tool. You could also use like a gift card that's no good or a credit card, those work great too. Next I was just tearing off because you know how, you know, easy it is to tear tissue paper because how delicate it is. So instead of cutting it, I just tore off the excess all around it. And so it kind of gave a slight little distressed look to it, then perfectly straight and clean. And of course, I had to distress it. And I was kind of seeing where it was going. I liked where it was starting. So I definitely wanted to distress the main part, the part that I just glued the tissue paper on. So if I did that, then I'm going to have to do all at once. I distress one thing, I have to distress all of it so it all goes together. And I do like the look that it has. It makes it all go together. Instead of making it look like it was from multiple different things, which it is, It made it look like it all came together, like it was all made for each other. So I was distressing this, and I always kind of make the corners a little bit more to give more character. And I realized that I missed a spot there. So I almost went glue. I'm like, oh no, I'll just finish it off. I'll finish distressing and then I'll glue it on. But yeah, see, that always happens to me. There's always like a little section that doesn't get glued all the way. So, but I just got the glue stick out again, add a little glue, and it all stuck well. And now in the back, I was going to add this extra piece of paper that I coffee dyed. And so again, I'm going to be using the glue stick. And I thought to make sure that I don't miss any edges, I thought why not add some art glitter glue, make sure that, all the edges are completely glued down. And I kind of regret this because you will see it in a minute. I'll I placed it onto the paper and lined it up as good as I could. Of course, I use nice squeegee again and, try to flatten down, make sure all the bubbles are out. And right here, I start realizing that you can see where the art glitter glue was. And it kind of left a mark because of being water-based. And the paper was too thin that it showed through. And I kept, squishing it with the squeegee, trying to make sure. And you could still see it. So that kind of bugged me. And then here I was going to try tearing it off, just the excess paper, just like I did with the tissue paper, but it was too thick. It started tearing the actual tag that I was making, so I had to use my scissors this time. And then, of course, I had to distress it, which did help. And I made sure that I kind of went further in to make sure it kind of covered where the glue was so it wouldn't be so obvious and stand out like a sore thumb. But it's not too bad. It turned out all right at the end. And I was debating about doing one of the stencils on there. I was debating between the two flowers again, and I really liked using this one in the corner, so I ended up going with that idea again. I used the brush again, and I used those same exact flowers on it, the same section of the stencil, and I used the antique linen again, and trying to make sure that I got every little spot so that I didn't have to try realigning it again, which I think I did on the bottom. I can't remember. But yeah, I really like how that looked. It really went well together, especially like distressing the edges and then putting that on top. It looked like it was like almost like it was coffee dyed with it. And then I was debating about adding some more little flowers around it, but I'm like, no, that'll be too much. Like just this right here is enough. Just right. I really liked how that turned out. And then I had to distress the little piece of paper that has the name of the flower. So that'll all go together. And I'm going to use the glue stick again to add the scrapbook paper. And this scrapbook paper is actually thicker. I'd say probably around 65 pound, cardstock kind of. And so that's why I did use the art glitter glue because I knew that it wouldn't show through on this paper. So I definitely have to remember next time not to use it on, because the paper that I used in the back was just regular printing paper. And that is not thick at all. So that's why it showed through. But the scrapbook paper that I was using was thicker. It was like a cardstock, so that was fine. The flower is from a book, and that's not thick enough. It's not cardstock, so that I just used a glue stick. I made sure I did not use art glitter glue, or else, yeah, that would have destroyed it. And so I'm just lining up just right. Luckily, you kind of get some little wiggle room to make sure it's where you want it. And then I just pressed it really good, making sure it all stuck well. And now I'm going to be using the art glitter glue to glue the lace down. One of the, I don't think no, I didn't videotape it, but I was working on another project page and I was putting lace over a pocket and I used the fabric glue, the Fabri-Tac glue, and it kind of gave like a see-through, like you could see the glue through it, like it made it wet looking. I did not like that. So I made sure I used art glitter glue this time. Oh, and one of the ends where I cut it with the scissors, it was too straight. It needed to be distressed, so that's why I was picking at it and trying to make it look more rough and distressed. And that looked a lot better because one side was like really like straight and perfect and the other part was distressed. So now it all looked well, and I covered it over that teeny weeny black dot, so now you can't see it at all. And then I will glue the name of the flower on top. And I accidentally forgot to put the needle back in my art glitter glue, so it was dripping on my desk. So I just used that glue so it wouldn't go to waste and just smeared it onto it, and it worked. I didn't want to go to waste because this glue is sometimes expensive. And I liked where it was going. And then I thought maybe I should put something on the top. I really liked that lace, and because there's only one little section, like it needed more. Like I was debating, should I put some on the top or maybe on the side or something? And then that's when I thought maybe I could use it as like a topper, but I'm like, that is like way too thin. And so I started thinking maybe there's a thicker lace, but so then I'm like, but then that's a whole new texture and color and everything. So I wanted to try using the same lace instead of just using one tiny little piece of it. And I thought maybe I could staple it or tie it on, and I liked that idea. So I was gonna use this punch. It's like got a slot. It gives like a really thin oval shape, but that was too thick because the lace is actually quite thin. So I just used my ordinary old hole punch and made a little hole in it, and it was like the perfect size. And then I got a decent amount of lace out, and I wanted to make sure because the lace, it actually has a pattern on it. It's like flower, oval, and so I wanted to make sure I had the same two shapes at the end. So the end of the lace had the flowers, so I cut where the flower was, so there's two flowers on the tip of it. And of course, when I tied it, I did it backwards, so I had to undo it. And swear, every single time I do this, I always even try to make sure I still do it backwards. But that's okay. I fixed it anyways. It's easy. And I really like how that looked. It definitely needed that to go with the other little piece of lace. It like completed it. And it looks so cute now. I really like it. And now I'm going to get the pocket out and see how it looks. And it needs something on there. So I thought I could use that lace again and I could put some on the top. And so I got a decent amount of art glitter glue to make sure it sticks really well, and I got it just above so that the very tip of it will be like hanging off so you don't see any of the green on the top. I need to add a little extra on the corner. I kind of missed a spot. And then I cut off the excess off the edge. And then because the tag was distressed, of course, I had to distress the pocket and the page as well, so it all goes together. And I really like that. After that, it like made it all look like it was meant to go together. I thought about that page right there, about still if I should add a stencil there or not, and since I used the other one on the tag and the other side of the page, I didn't want to use it a third time, so that's why I thought I'll use this one. And so I was trying to find something flat to put on behind, so I just used the packaging. Um, and again, I used the antique linen and the brush, and everything was in the way. I had to move the paper and scissors out of the way. But yeah, I lined it up just right, and when I was trying to make sure that I had got it all, and it took me a couple times. I had to line it back up because I kept missing a spot on towards the bottom. But in the middle of this, all of a sudden my camera stopped on me and I didn't realize, but I also end up distressing the edges, which don't worry, you'll see it at the end because I end up doing another tag in a minute. But I really like the way this turned out. So on this tag, I want to have it tucked underneath here as like a mini like pocket, and I kind of had it all planned out. This one I'm going to do quite different. It's actually going to be a circle. I already had them all cut out and stuff. So one of the, I used my die cutting machine. I did some circles. I have that pink scrapbook paper with some really fine white writing, and then I also die cut a circle of the book from the Golden Encyclopedia is where that book page is from. And I just used my circle die cuts. And so I was going to use the glue stick, and I'm trying to line it up just right because it just needed a little something instead of just all pink. And it would not line up for the life of me. I was having the hardest time. Like, it was no problem at first, but once I put the glue stick on, I just could not line it up for the life of me. And then all of a sudden I realized that it was not sticking at all. Like, it already like instantly dried, or I didn't get enough on there because it wasn't sticking. It was more, and then I started wondering if I got the right side because it seemed like it was more on the top than the bottom. So finally I just took it off, and I made sure that there wasn't any glue on it, which there wasn't, and I got the art glitter glue out and I glued that because at first I was afraid of using the art glitter glue that it would leave that watermark like it did on the coffee dyed paper that I did, but it actually worked kind of good and it didn't leave a mark, so that was awesome. So carefully, I'm trying to line it up, and this actually was a lot easier lining up than with the glue stick for some reason, but it worked good, and I'm just kind of tapping it, and then I'm going to flip it over and use my squeegee and varnish it to make sure it's all stuck well, and it was perfect, finally. And those are the Infinity Hero Arts circle die cuts that I used. And then this is the picture of the page. This is one of them that wasn't drawn on. And so that's going to be in the center. And I just roughly tore it off. I had extra glue on the page, so I was just kind of like using that and smearing it around so it wouldn't go to waste. And making sure all of it stuck really well. And trying to center it just right. And then I wanted to use these two flowers on the side, and I wanted to line up just right. So I was making sure that the photo of Peter Rabbit was centered exactly where I wanted, because I don't want the flowers to go outside of the circle. So I'm just making sure everything's lined up just right before I press it down. And the flowers are from Tim Holtz as well. And I wanted to try distressing them a little bit so they stood up, because it did blend in quite a bit with because they're a light pink, and it kind of blended in with the pink scrapbook paper that I used. And I used the antique linen, which really didn't do much. I should have used a different ink that was a shade darker, but it's okay. It all goes well together. And so, of course, I had to distress the circle as well, and I meant to distress the book page with the writing on it, the one from the Garden's Encyclopedia, and I forgot to before I glued it down, but it's okay. I kind of wish that I did so it would stand out more, but I think it was enough. Like, it was okay. And then, of course, I am using my art glitter glue. I do love the, I'm trying to remember, I can't remember what packaging it was of the embellishments from Tim Holtz, but I really like the flowers, the pictures, but I just don't like how these ones are different. Normally they were always like matte paper, matte, kind of like cardstock. And these ones are much different. They kind of have like a waxy coat on the top and are thicker. And so it kind of has a slight gloss to it. And it's hard to tell that but when you buy it because of the, being in the clear packaging. But yeah, I don't like that. I like the old, way embellishment paper that they use compared to this glossy stuff. Um, but I love the photos though. The pictures, are great. And it had like all flowers in this collection. And then of course I've had to have something on the bottom right. So I found this little label that was actually from Tim Holtz as well. It was from the Field Notes. I think it was the snippets, the small ones, because I needed more blue in it because Peter Rabbit, his jacket was blue. And so it's not the same blue, but it worked. It was the lightest one I could find and it was the perfect size because in the original book, I was able to find Peter's name and I cut it out and I distressed it and the label did have like some typing on it and some numbers on it, but the name Peter that I cut out completely covered it just perfect. It was just the right size. It was meant to be. And so I glued that on there. I was trying to get all the some of the glue kind of gooed a little and I was trying to make sure it was all pressed well and get that extra glue off. And it gave me a little bit of wiggle room to position it just right so that all the numbers and writing was covered. And then that's going to be on the bottom right, like so, underneath the birds and next to the flowers. And I was debating on some of these flowers, which is from the Tim Holtz Field Note as well. I got the tiniest ones I could find. And I really like that blue one on the top left. And I wanted one like on the bottom right. And I was kind of thinking of doing one with the side view of the butterfly. So it looks like it's like landing on the little label. So it all goes together. But then I really liked this one as well. This like, and it had like some of the same colors as the flower, as the birds. And so I thought that might go well. So I was debating back and forth between that blue one if I should use that one instead. But I really wanted to at least have three things that were blue so it evened out because when you do things like that it's nice to have things of three and so only having two blue things kind of it was even and I needed like a third item so that's why I did end up using the butterfly but I had the hardest time choosing which butterflies to use because they all looked pretty good. They all looked great. So eventually I decided on these two and used the art glitter glue to glue them down. And this one, I kind of distressed the top of it a little bit. Like there is black on the side of the wings, but on the top where the antennas are and on the bottom, it kind of blended in. So I wanted to stand out a little bit more. So I just used the antique linen. So it didn't blend into the leaves and the flowers too much. And it was like the perfect size. It all looks like it was meant to go together. I really like how that turned out. And then next, I thought it needed just a tad bit more. It just needed something behind it, like a texture. So I tried to easily peel that off, which already was glued down. I kind of wish I did this before, but I got the last little bit of the paper doily that I've been using throughout this journal. I had like two little pieces left. And so yeah, I put it right there behind the label and the butterfly. And then I'm going to use the last little part I thought about using, because I do have a smaller version of the same doily, but it was too small. Like, it wasn't the right size. Like, it didn't look right because it's not as detailed because of being so small. And so I was debating like if it would work or not, and if I should put it on the top or the bottom. It wasn't enough. So I used that last little bit off of the one that I've been using and tearing off the extra pieces that I didn't need, trying to make it the right size. And I was debating if I should have it on the top or on the bottom. I just kept on maneuvering it all over the place. I could not make up my mind because I thought since the one on the bottom is on the top, maybe I should put this one on the bottom to make it different. But eventually I ended up just putting it on the top. So I glued that down first, and then I added more glue on the butterfly and realigned it again to put that back on. And I really like how that turned out. It definitely made a huge difference. And then the back was just white because it was the back of the scrapbook paper and it was just plain. So I just stressed the edges and I was just kind of adding a little bit more to blend it in instead of just being completely white. So it just easily goes in from antique linen to white in the center. And now I'm going to get the book out and see how it all looks together. And it just lies right underneath there, and I really like how that turned out. And I liked how I made it a different shape than usual. Oh, and here's the part where it cut off on me. I distressed the top and bottom, and I really like how that looked. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this. If so, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Bye!